Is this a PS5? Huh. Yes, it is. Well, whoever sent this to me clearly doesn't know me. Well, while I got it, might as well give it a shot. The graphics, the power, adaptive triggers. Have I been missing out on this my entire life? Who knew I could game with this much power? In December of 1994, Sony released the PlayStation. At the time, video games were just swapping over to the disc format instead of cartridges because they were more powerful. So, the PlayStation featured games that were played on discs rather than cartridges because, as I said, 1, it was more powerful, and 2, it was easier to develop for, which brought in third-party developers, which made the PlayStation stand out further than consoles like, say, the N64. But none of that would matter because on March 4th, 2000, something was about to shake up the gaming industry. The PlayStation 2, the console that sold 155 million units. To this day, it is still the best-selling video game console. Sony advertised it as the console of the future. The PS2 was advertised as the console of the future. And, well, the PS2 released in the year 2000, and if they meant future, they meant 2001. Because this thing was not as powerful as it was hyped up to be. But that really didn't matter because this console had amazing third-party support and exclusives. The GameCube wasn't selling too well at this time, so it really was, do you want an Xbox or a PS2? And while both the PS2 and the Xbox had third-party support, the PS2 had better exclusives, and the PlayStation brand had been around for longer. So, the PS2 dominated in the early 2000s, then they screwed up everything. In 2006, Sony released the PS3, and man did they get a little too cocky because they were selling 2 different versions of the PS3, one for $499 and another for $599. Thankfully, the PS3 received quite the price cut, and it ended up selling really well in the end due to it. Then on November 15, 2013, the PS4 came out. Now, I was too busy preparing for something that was way more important to me. But at this point, the PS4 was the PS4. It showed how much Sony really cared about performance, power, and graphics. Though, all these years of PlayStation consoles, it has been made apparent that power is Sony's biggest priority, and it always has been. So, with that, after the PS4, where to next? Well, apparently not store shelves. The PlayStation 5. The goal here is, well, you guessed it, power. I think when your console's Wikipedia page has a whole section dedicated to hardware, whatever's inside this thing must be worth noting. The PS5 is capable of 4K graphics while still being able to maintain 60 frames per second. And this time, this thing doesn't quite sound like it's trying to take off like the PS4 used to while trying to play Minecraft. The console itself sells for $500. $500? Now that's just too much for a console. Well, clearly they didn't learn their lesson. Well, as outrageous as that price point sounds, that's unfortunately becoming a new normal. As games now require more work, the price point, of course, is going to go up as well. Well, the price point of the PS5 really doesn't matter at this point because everybody wants a PS5 and nobody can get their hands on one. These bad boys sold out everywhere. On November 12, 2020, the PS5 released and nobody could find one. Stores only got a couple at a time, and the few times the store got one, they were bought out so fast and then sold on Amazon for $1,000 more. You'd assume that over time, these would actually start showing up in stores? Well, at the time of recording this, it's 2022 and my local Walmart has been sold out ever since. It is absolutely crazy how long these things have been out of stock. And it's crazy how high the demand is for them right now. I know it's because of supply chain issues, but anyway, fortunately, my brother was one of the lucky ones to get his at launch. So that means I've had access to one this entire time. And this entire time, I don't think I've once turned it on my own. Because I've always been a Nintendo guy, and if I'm going to sit down and play video games, I will more likely stick to what I like, because why waste my time playing a game I might potentially like or potentially dislike when I can just play what I enjoy? I know that's a bad mindset, so as the huge Nintendo fan I am, let's take a look at the PS5. First thing I noticed when turning it on is I was wrong about the fan. When turning on the console, you're greeted to a pleasant little beep, then the fan sounds like it's about to explode. But soon enough it calms down. Remember, I am a Nintendo fan, so when I boot this up, I'm greeted to, goodness gracious, everything here is on the menu and it's a bit overwhelming. This menu layout is very cluttered. There's so much going on. So many sub-menus, graphics, drop-downs, a bit too much for my brain to process all at once. I don't like the layout here. I don't hate it, no, but I don't like it. I'm sure it's better once you get used to it, but that's just the menu. The grand scheme of things, it's not really that super important. Let's just check out what this baby can do. The best way to see what the PS5 is capable of is by playing Astro's Playroom. Astro's Playroom is pre-installed on every PS5 console. It's a short 3D platformer starring Astrobot. This little guy was originally in Astrobot Rescue Mission on the PSVR. I played and enjoyed Astrobot's rescue mission, so this already looked promising. Astro's Playroom is not only going to show off what the PS5 can do, but also what the DualSense can do. The DualSense is the PS5's primary controller. It offers incredible haptic feedback and amazing adaptive triggers, quite the built-in microphone, and a speaker. This controller is no joke. The vibrations here are amazing. Just like the Joy-Cons, you can feel every little movement in these bad boys. Except unlike the Joy-Cons, these aren't gonna drift after a week. While the vibrations are amazing, I think the adaptive triggers are the coolest part. The adaptive triggers will read what's going on in the game and then use the controller. By that, I mean you'll feel actual resistance when pushing the controllers. This here, I think, is a super cool feature. While haptic feedback is super cool on its own, I don't think it can do much to advance gameplay, while adaptive triggers, on the other hand, I can think of a lot of things that can be done with this. Then there's a microphone. It's a microphone. Cool. Now, just playing through Astro's Playroom shows how every little detail thrown in the controller can make a subtle difference. I figured while we're here, why not talk about Astro's Playroom for a bit? When booting up the game, you're given the option to perform a controller test, which I highly recommend if you're curious as to what the PS5 controller can do. Or you can just jump right into the game. When jumping right into the game, you're going to notice you're in this neat little plaza. Well, if you take a closer look around, you'll realize you're in the console itself. Fun! There's 4 levels, each one throwing you into a neat little environment filled with tons of PlayStation and Sony references, and some fun level design. Honestly, some of these levels are really fun, until you get to the gimmick sections. Now, I know why they're here. This is a free game and it's supposed to show you what the console can do, and the gimmicks help show off what the controller can do, but man, things like this frog section suck. But other than that, this is a perfect way to show off what the console itself can do. It's a solid 3D platformer, especially for being free. But the best thing here is definitely the speedrun levels. But yeah, overall, it's a super cool way to show off what your console can do. I love when consoles come with something to do on them. I really miss that with the Nintendo Switch, because when you boot that thing up for the first time, you're greeted to an empty menu. Not much of what I've said has been super important. The most important part of a console is the games it can play. So, for the longest time, the PS5 didn't have the biggest exclusives or the huge pull. I mean, there was Ratchet and Clank, but in my opinion, a relatively weak launch lineup. But that didn't matter because this thing was fully backward compatible with PS4, and there's a ton of exclusives right now. But backwards compatibility is a huge deal. It may not sound like it, but look at it this way. Right out of the box, this thing has access to the entirety of the PS4 library and new games yet to come. At that point, it's pretty much an investment. Speaking of investments, the PSVR 2 is coming out eventually, so there's something else to look forward to. Now, overall, the PS5 was pretty good. The PlayStation line doesn't typically like to steer too far off track. Each console is relatively the same thing with more power and features, which is not a bad thing. If something's not broken, don't fix it, right? Now, the controller's a different story. It is the same layout, yes, but this one has so many little features and functions. If you're a PlayStation fan, I'd say this is for you. Just be careful with your wallet, because man, this is going to do some damage to it. But yeah, this thing, I didn't talk about it, but this thing has like little to no load times, a great controller, great graphics, some good games too. So yeah, if you're into PlayStation, I'd say go for it. If there's any exclusives or anything, this is the console for you. Good luck finding it. Oh, what am I doing? Well, as much fun as all these features are, and I love this thing, Nintendo's where my favorite games are. And again, this thing is great, it's just not for me. Time to go sell it on Amazon for $2,000.